This is the ending of the worst of the 100-year history of the New York Giants. The worst season we have ever experienced as a fan base, and I'm so thankful it's over. Hell, and the Jets, too, as we open the day with finding out that the hope that you had for some promise over the last few years is out the window as well. Just an awful day, an awful game, an awful season that is finally over. But, of course, we got one more day to talk about what was just an absolute ass-kicking in every way, shape, and form from Philadelphia. I mean, they just absolutely ran all over the Kansas City Chiefs in every single way. And mainly, we know the reasons. I heard Lori talking about it. You know, we all watched the game. That defensive front just absolutely dominated Kansas City, and they had no answers for it the entire game, really, but certainly the first half when the game was decided. And they didn't have to bring any extra blitzing. Obviously, zero blitzes in this game from Fangio. Just a complete domination from the front four, a complete domination of the line of scrimmage. A great game from Jalen Hurts. We talked about it. Kansas City did defensively what you expected them to do. Try and shut down Barkley, which they did, and make Jalen Hurts beat him, and he did. Other than the interception, he was brilliant in this game, throwing the ball deep. Even on the first drive where they get the offensive pass interference call, on a 4th and 2, he throws a perfect pass down the sidelines. He was on from the beginning of the game. And it was the coronation of this Eagles team, who has been the most dominant team in the NFL since their bye week, week 5. And it came to full fruition against the Chiefs team going for their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. And that's what hurts the most. They absolutely dominated this Kansas City team. They were lost. And I know we're going to talk about, look, it's 40-22. And I know we can harken back to the 31-9 drubbing they took from the Bucs and Tom Brady. To me, this was worse. And what makes it all the more difficult to swallow, forget Saquon Barkley and all the other storylines, this Eagles team dismantled a 2-time defending Super Bowl champion and made Patrick Mahomes look as bad as he's ever looked in his life. And I know they got beat up in that Bucs Super Bowl, and people are going to talk about it and try and correlate it. Maybe it's just recency bias. Maybe it's my negative Eagle energy. I remember Mahomes making plays in that game on some level, and I know they only scored 9 points. I remember the throw when he was on, he was completely, parallel to the ground and still putting it on his receiver's hands in the end zone for an ultimate drop. But he was, in that game, yeah, they got shut down, they got overrun, they had injuries on the offensive line, but I still felt like Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes. The Philadelphia Eagles made Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City offense look like I've never seen them look before. He was awful in this game. From the first drive of the game, when Kelsey drops that pass, the entire staff, the entire team, Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, Hopkins, who has that ridiculous drop. The game's probably already decided at that point in the third quarter. But they come out needing a score, and he has that. They take a terrible penalty, and they work it back to 3rd and 11, and they have him wide open, and he drops the ball from Andy Reid to, everyone on the staff, to the great defensive coordinator, to the entire team. They didn't look like the Kansas City Chiefs. You know what they reminded me of? I'm not kidding. I thought it while I was watching the game. If you've ever seen the movie Miracle with Kurt Russell on the 1980 Olympic team, they look like the Russians at the end of that game when Kurt Russell turns to his coach and says, they don't know. They've never been losing before. They don't know how to handle this. That's what it looked like. It looked like the Chiefs were completely dumbfounded that they were getting their asses kicked, and they had no idea how to handle it. And Patrick Mahomes had no idea how to handle it. That's what it reminded me of. They've never been beat like this, and not since. Now, I know that game they did. They're a one-time champion. This is a different team that's had much more success and has, won back-to-back championships and have won all these games and, have not been their best over the last couple of years, especially offensively. And they still managed to find ways to win tough, hard-fought games. And in this game, they had no answer. And to me, the turning point of the game, and I heard Lori talking about this a little bit, I think a lot of people talk about the pick six. It's not the pick six. The pick six is absolutely not the turning point of the game. It's the interception after that. There is no doubt. The Zach Bond interception where they get the pick six, make it 17-0. They end up punting on the drive after the pick six. Then they get that defensive stand after they had it 3rd and 22, and they have a terrible penalty. And that's the other thing. Like, forget that storyline. I know it felt like it was going to be a storyline the first drive in when they have the offensive pass interference, and everyone's like, oh, here comes the refs to kill the Chiefs. You look at some of the dopey penalty they take on the late hit on Saquon Barkley. Now, whether it was an egregious physical contact or whether you could have, held on to the flag, whatever the case may be, they hit him late. They desperately need to stop there, down 17-0. They're dropping passes. They're having terrible penalties. Like this was the worst job I've seen Andy Reid do off a bye. Forget just a Super Bowl or a playoff game. In Andy Reid's career, I have never seen a team no-show after a bye the way the Kansas City Chiefs did, chasing history. How is it possible that they came out with this performance? And I don't want to diminish what the Eagles did, because the Eagles are the ones who made them play like this. And Hurts deserves everything that's coming to him. He deserves the MVP. He deserves all the talk and knocks on him to cease, because he has played great in 2 Super Bowls, and he does nothing but win football games. For all his faults and for all his liabilities and for all his inabilities. All this guy does is win football games and make big plays when you need it. And the same thing with Sirianni. The guy is literally created. I saw our guy Connor, I think, or Fleegs, one of the two, were tweeting back and forth to each other. Connor, like, this guy literally invented a play that has changed the landscape of the NFL. This is a guy last year who there was problems with the quarterback, problems with the wide receiver. The team was falling apart. And we can give Saquon Barkley credit for some of this. But off of that miserable year last year and changing a bunch of coaching staff, and the idea that his ass was, near getting fired even at 2-2 to start the year. After an ugly loss in week 4, there was talks about where is this regime, where is this coach, where is this team? And from that moment on, they've been the most dominant force in the NFL, and they just kicked the tar out of the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and made them look confused. Absolutely confused. But the turning point of this game, and when I knew it was over, and for me, because we're going to talk about the Eagles, and we're going to talk about how great they are, but the secondary conversation is what this loss means for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, and if we, their legacy, if we care, and determining whether he's Tom Brady and whether this group is the New England Patriots. Because to me, the pick six that makes it 17-0 is a blow. But when you get the ball back after that defensive stand, after your defense recovers from a terrible penalty and still forces a punt, and Patrick Mahomes, the great Patrick Mahomes, had an opportunity in this game down 17-0 with 1:49 left in the half, with an opportunity getting the ball back to start the second half to drive the field, put the ball in the end zone, and everybody talking about Kansas City getting the ball in the second half and having the opportunity to make it a field goal game. He had that opportunity. Everything else that went wrong, everything else about that ugly first half. Philadelphia had more first downs than the Kansas City Chiefs had yards at one point in the first half. They had 11 first downs to Kansas City's 10 yards. And for all of that, 1:49, where this man has made his money, his legacy, his history, his teammates' careers, his coach's career, where he's on the same conversation with Tom Brady and the other great winners of this league, is because when he's been in that moment, the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes rise above and figure out a way to go down the field, put it in the end zone, and put a little bit of fear into an Eagles team who's going to be kicking themselves for dominating the game and only being up 10 points with an opportunity of Kansas City getting the ball back to start the second half. And instead, on the first play of that drive, he throws a hideous pick. That was the game. It sets them up for the easy touchdown, and 24-0, it's over. Patrick Mahomes didn't only not come through. Patrick Mahomes did not only squander the opportunity to get back into the Super Bowl while they're chasing history. Patrick Mahomes gave the game away in that moment. That is so unlike him. That is so unlike Kansas City. Even in the Bucs game. Maybe it's recency bias, but even in the Bucs game, as bad as it was, I don't ever remember Patrick Mahomes having an opportunity to get back into the game and not just blowing it, but ending it. Patrick Mahomes ended that football game with that throw. That is stunning to me. It was a stunning result when that ball got picked off. And it was just, and from that point on, there was some window dressing later in the game, but that's the game. And Philadelphia did whatever they wanted to do offensively. They attacked downfield. They did everything they knew it was going to be tough for Barkley to run the football, and it really didn't even feel like they tried. Even later in the game, they were attacking down the field. That's what they were given, and that's what they took. And Hurts made every play. He made every big play. He was able to get the ball out quickly against the blitz. I mean, it was just an absolute ass-kicking that, honestly, it was the most boring display of football I could ever remember when it was this quality of teams. And we know we went in talking about the better overall roster of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the great quarterback and coach and Spags and, the tight end and all that. And it wasn't even, it became apparent quickly that the roster was going to win out in this one. And I still cannot believe in that moment that he gave the game away. And now I'm sorry for what, and you know how I feel about Tom Brady, and you know how I feel about Patrick Mahomes. I feel Patrick Mahomes is the more talented player. I think he's capable of doing more. You even saw in this game, his ability, the only plays he ever made, and one of them got called back on a holding call. But his ability to maneuver and his ability to make people miss and get first downs, even though he's not fleet of foot, he's not Lamar Jackson out there going to run for 700, 800, 900 yards a season. But he's capable of making people miss and running around and then throwing on the run. But even throwing on the run, he threw terrible. On the run, he was completely inaccurate. He took bad chances even early in the game. He was completely off his game. But as talented as he is, and as much as we could talk about his legacy and what he does from here, Tom Brady never looked like that. 2007, Tom Brady talked about it on the broadcast and how much pain he felt losing that Super Bowl. And we all know the defensive front of the Giants and Tuck getting pressure up the middle. That great offense, that unbelievable undefeated team, and the offense with Randy Moss, they put up 14 points in that game. But Tom Brady led them down the field in the fourth quarter and put it in the end zone to give them the lead. Eli Manning came back and broke their heart, and the Giants came back and broke their heart. But Tom Brady, when given the opportunity, made it a football game, made the other team beat him. Tom Brady never, even in his losses, looked like this. And now this Kansas City Chiefs team that we all quickly want to call the next New England Patriots have had two stinkers. It was domination. in every sense of the word. And thankfully for Giant fans, it wasn't Saquon Barkley running for 300 yards. But nonetheless, this is now, when you date back to the NFC Championship game and the 90 points they've scored between these two games, and to watch Jaden Daniels and Washington be in that game, watch Philadelphia take care of them, go to the Super Bowl, and absolutely dominate what was a dynasty and a team going for history and winning a third championship that no one's ever seen, with a quarterback who does nothing but win these games and play great in the big moment and overcome whatever obstacles presented to him. This Philadelphia Eagles team that has a young quarterback who isn't going anywhere, Howie Roseman, who is the best executive in the sport, bar none, a roster that's super talented, still having picks. You know how they can manipulate the cap. Saquon Barkley's not going anywhere. Hurts isn't going anywhere. Smith isn't going anywhere. This defense isn't going anywhere. Carter isn't going anywhere. And you've got to watch the coronation of this Eagles team absolutely dominate history. And you've got Jaden Daniels in the division, and you've got the best team in football, who will be the favorites to do it again next year. What an absolute disaster. One team stepped on the field ready to play a game, and the other one didn't. And the team that did it was our nemesis in Philadelphia down the road. And we got to watch them win this Super Bowl, celebrate, dominating a Chiefs team going for a third Super Bowl, and not only just dominating them, making them look more human, more flawed, more inept, more unworthy of their title than we have ever seen anyone make them look. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They're dropping passes. They're making dumb penalties. Like, it's just, Spags is looking out into space. Andy Reid's looking out into space. Kelsey is beside himself. And Patrick Mahomes has no idea what to do. I know that Bucs Super Bowl was bad. To me, this was on another level. The Philadelphia Eagles made the Kansas City Chiefs look like the New York Giants. And that is hard to fathom. We can talk about Barkley, and I do think there is room in your heart to feel good for him, the person, because he is a quality person. I am not necessarily happy for him. I am miserable that the Eagles won this game. But I do think on some level, because it doesn't bother me as much as most, you can be happy for him at the same time of being just absolutely furious about it. It is what it is. But Saquon Barkley didn't really impact this game all that much, but he is the reason they're there. It has been from the beginning of this season, from Hard Knocks, all the quotes, everything about Saquon Barkley not coming back, all the memes and clips that are all over Twitter for the entire year, from watching the Giants fall on their face, to watching Saquon Barkley rush for 2,000 yards and this Eagle team look like the best team in the sport, to having them win the Super Bowl, seeing what Washington did, Eli Manning not making the Hall of Fame, the butt of every joke, like all of it. In the 100-year history of the New York Giants, and obviously I've only been around for 41 of them, and I don't remember all 41. But I don't know if you can make an argument. This is the worst season that a Giant fan has ever experienced in the 100 years history of the New York Giants. And I forgot the hideous uniforms. Like, everything about this, it does not get worse for a New York Giant fan. And the only thing I'll say is there's nowhere to go but up. Tennessee's looking to trade the pick. And the New York Giants better get a freaking quarterback.